No, your audio is good.
Oh, all right.
All right. So welcome to another monthly new member meetup. We do these the third Friday of every month. It's an opportunity for new members to ask some questions, introduce themselves, and we have a presentation each month with somebody that can give some orientation for new members. So maybe before we get started with the presentation, we can go around and introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about where we're from, our interests, and maybe some questions or concerns we have. So my name's Ben. I've been involved with e-NABLE for a couple of years, and I've been working on media coordination, and I'm hosting some of these community events. And I'll pass the mic to Arjun.
Hi, I'm Arjun. I'm from Lambert High School in Georgia in the United States, and I'm a new member. I saw this online, and I'm pretty excited to help and start joining.
Great. Maybe we can pass it to John.
John Shah, guess so. Nice to meet you, Arjun. I'm John Shah, co-founder of e-NABLE, and I'll pass it to the other John in case that's who Ben meant in the first place.
John, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. My name is John Toth. I'm a retired STEM public school teacher. And I've done a lot of 3D printing, and I did print a prosthetic hand through e-NABLE at my classroom. And that was 4 years ago. So I want to get into it more now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Where are you located?
New Jersey, USA.
Okay.
Great.
How about
Nice
you?
to meet you. Well, I'm currently in New York City, but I'll pass through New Jersey on my way to, actually, I'll pass by New Jersey on my way back home later this afternoon. My home is Rochester,
Okay.
New York, where Ben is.
Thank you. If you guys could, hopefully by the end of this, give contact information so we could contact you specifically, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay.
We can definitely do that.
For new members, someone should go through a review of our websites and contact channels.
Thank you.
Shall I do that, or Ben, do you want to do that?
We can do that at the end. I can add that in. And in terms of introductions, should we pass it over to Alexander?
Hi, my name is Alexander. I graduated last year with a robotics degree. I'm from Romania. I've been involved with e-NABLE for, I think it's going to be a year soon. And I'm the person that actually made the new interface for the catalog that we're going to be presenting today.
Well, without further ado, so again, we have a presentation once a month, and the presentation that we have this month is from Alexander. He's going to be walking us through, we've got a catalog of open source devices. Alexander put up a proposal for a community funded project to organize the devices, and really for the perspective of engineers, make it easier to find devices that had similar features. He'll give us a little bit of an orientation on that. So thanks, Alexander, and I'll pass it to you.
Right, so firstly, let's cover how the catalog should be starting to look any day this week, hopefully. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So this is how the new catalog is looking. It should be fairly easier to navigate than the old one. We have all of our devices are currently split into 4 major categories, which are based on your limb difference level. So there are finger devices, hand devices, below shoulder devices, and below elbow devices. Most often we see people using our hand devices and our below elbow devices. We don't have that many fingers. It's fair to say. There are also more links to various troves from different communities that are external of e-NABLE around the hub, but these are the ones that we have actually tested and used before. We have the recommended hand devices, and on the right you can also see an index. They are also separated by recommended, mechanical, and bionic. Not every category has a bionic, and not every category is separated. It's only if they have enough devices. Worth mentioning that we don't generally do a lot of bionics on the hub, or at least we do much less than it's prevalent in the actual professional industry, mostly because it gets really complicated, and these designs are they are thought to be made by volunteers that have no previous skills. So you just need a 3D printer and time to actually go through everything. And that should be enough to actually help somebody with a device. Also, in the below shoulder category, we have something called NIOP modules, which are a lot of modules that are meant to be modular, and they are supposed to combine with each other. This is an entirely bionic project. We currently don't have any recommended below shoulder strictly mechanical devices, partly because, well, if it's below shoulder, you can't really actuate it mechanically. We also have some experimental devices that haven't been tested yet, but they are here in the catalog. And there are also various links to other external lists from various communities around the internet. What else is there to say? Right, on the recommended devices, these are automatically generated, which is, well, actually, that's not really relevant for this. However, what's relevant is that everywhere where you see a red marker, that's missing information. So the people that create these devices usually are not professional prosthetists or anything like that. They are volunteers just like yourself, and we don't have all the informations about the devices as we might need. So, for example, for kinetic, we don't know how many parts actually go and how many parts need to be printed and purchased for this. So that's a little bit of a thing that you can contribute, and it's a massive contribution for the community without actually printing or getting in contact with a case. And yeah, as you can see, there are multiple red dots around the page, and this is actually a page. This is actually a device that we know a lot about. Most devices have much more red dots around them. There are also red dots around here that are about testing. So, for example, we don't know the type of grip. We don't know how much strength this is supposed to take. So if you have an engineering background or you have the time, there's also a lot of need for you to make a device, just a test device, and start testing its limits. How much infill should we put in the device? What materials are better to use for this device? And all sorts of questions like that. Everything should be marked on the page. If you find a question that is not answered on the page, just comment below the page and we will add your question directly for somebody else to answer. In the very rare chance where you are an engineer and you can actually create a new device, or you want to modify this device, if you want to modify a device, there is a list of, I don't actually remember where the list is. It's somewhere in this page of requested modifications. So if you feel comfortable, oh, there we go. Right, the page is not old enough to actually have anything here. If you feel confident enough to modify this, check out the list of requested modifications and you can just upload the modified files. If you need a modification, just post down in the comments. An admin will see your question. We will post it in the requested modifications and an engineer will actually come along at some point and make that modification to be available for everybody in the community.
Alexander, as
yeah.
a quick example of that, what was the device recently that there was some comment dialogue going on? Maybe you can share that just to show people how it works. There was a file that they weren't able to find. Do you remember that?
I think so. So
I
just
think it was
a second.
the Phoenix hand.
Oh, it was the unlimited ARM
Yes.
design. So
Yes.
I believe it's this one.
So just to show people how this works. So you see all the information, and then when you get to the bottom,
it's down here in the links. You just click on the STL files. And yeah, this is the issue. Thingiverse took it down for some reason.
right. And again, if you go to the bottom of that page, you'll see there's comments. So when you find problems, you can post about it in the comments. And
good to actually post this here since people haven't actually commented on this yet.
great.
Right, and somebody else will tag along. I will actually post Masviz OpenSCAD design right here as it's one of the backups that we have for this ARM.
Super.
In the rare chance that you can actually design a completely new device, there is a way for you to submit it, which is this form right here, which is not currently linked on the hub, but it will be. And here you just need to plug in your name of the. I am not supposed to be in this view. There you go. So you just put the name of the device, a couple of photos, the device type, and you upload your link to Thingiverse or wherever you actually host your files. And we will go through it and we will make it an official device in our catalog after a bit of testing. I know I'm missing something, but I don't know what. John, Ben, any ideas?
John, maybe you can just talk a little bit, if you'd like, just a quick introduction to how open source works, because I feel like for some new members, open source is something they're maybe a little familiar with, but it depends on user feedback. So pass it to you, John.
So open source methodologies started up in the software world when a number of people decided that software really wants to be something that you can open up and look under the hood. And the breakthrough was a license called the copyleft license, which is a form of copyright, which stipulated some particular terms that were meant to be sort of viral and infectious. The copyleft, which is only one of many open source licenses, says you're free to copy this, you're free to reuse it, but anything you do, you have to share the source code with others so that they too can copyright it and reuse it. Now that turns out to be quite an influential pattern, but it's also one that discouraged people who wanted to be able to build on other people's software, but retain some control over that software in the future. And so from that, there are a variety of open source licenses. You can find the logic of them well laid out if you go to, for example, creativecommons.org, which is a website that allows you to decide whether your software should be, for example, usable by anyone for anything, or usable by people who only provided that they acknowledge that they got it from you, or usable by people if they are using it for non-commercial purposes, or other combinations, but you get to stipulate.
So maybe in summary, it's basically the opportunity for any device to have remixes. You can take a device, you can print it, you can say, this doesn't work for what I want, so I have to make some changes, and then you reshare that back, and it grows in all these directions at once, basically, right?
Sure, that's right. If you choose to do the license according to those terms, there are a number of variations. With e-NABLE, we sort of require and we celebrate the fact that all of our devices are open source, but all of those devices are also owned by their designers. And it's the designers who get to choose what license to use. So typically on devices in the catalog, there should be, and Alexander, forgive me if I missed this, but there should be an indication of what the license is, and perhaps even, and it shouldn't be hard to find a link to the license itself, so that as you're reviewing the functional characteristics of the design, you can also look at the legal characteristics of the license that is linked to the design. I would also point out that open source licenses are, like patents and anything else, are not easy to defend if someone violates the license. And e-NABLE has never actually decided to pick a fight with someone who was, for example, and this does happen on occasion, selling a 3D printed prosthetic. In some cases, we didn't do it because they were overseas and we couldn't reach them. In other cases, it was clear that by selling the device, they were engaged in an activity that was making valuable devices available to people who otherwise couldn't get them. But it is a gray area, and it's not e-NABLE's responsibility, because e-NABLE is not an organization. It's a network of designers and chapters. So that's sort of the framework by which you should think about this.
So maybe just to connect the dots, Alexander took our collection of devices, which again, are having all these remixes. There's devices that are early models. There's some that are missing some information. And he tried to sort it together in a way to make it a little bit easier to sort, and also oriented for engineers. So if there's some similar functions between two very different looking devices, that could be identified. And again, if somebody is trying to fix or update a device, they can search through the other models and share some of those ideas in their process.
Right. One of the major advantages of the new pages is that if you are engineering oriented, so if you come from a background of engineering, the pages actually explain completely, or should explain completely, how the hand is supposed to work, all the mechanics behind it, all the various advantages and disadvantages. Occasionally, you will also find a bit of history about the hands, or what the intent of the designer was. It should also provide a number of resources specifically for makers, like bill of materials, estimated cost, recommended print settings, which you might not find somewhere else, and other advice like that. I also want to mention that the license, most of our devices, the files themselves are linked from Thingiverse. On each Thingiverse product, we have a license tag. And I want to cover the first two licenses. Well, pretty much actually everyone. So the first, the CC one, is the Creative Commons, which means you're allowed to download it. The second one means that you're not allowed to sell it or to make a profit out of remixing this. And the other two mean that you're allowed to remix this. So if you want to modify it, for example, one of the most frequent modifications is to remove the thumb or remove one of the fingers. That is fine. And the new device should also be shared with the same license. That's what this four items mean right here. Each device might have a different license. I believe every single one that we host has a Creative Commons license. Some of them can be sold. You have to actually check the license for this specific icon.
That's great. So maybe we can take a step back and see if anybody has any questions. I mean, for Arjun and John, as new members, what can they do to contribute to this, and what would be maybe the questions that they have about the devices that are available?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I have the 3D printer. I have a few, but the main one I use is a Creality Ender 5. So like the build plate is 220, 220, and then by 300. And I got some filament. It is PLA. Now I was looking at the Phoenix V2 hand. What do you guys think would be the better option? I was looking online. Some people are saying PETG, and some people are saying PLA for material.
Technically, both are very good choices, and they are beginner friendly. PETG generally prints at a higher temperature. So, for example, I'm actually printing a hand right now with PETG, and I'm using 240 degrees Celsius instead of 210. The main difference is how they act under stress. So PLA, it's not gonna bend, and when it's gonna bend, it's also gonna break.
Okay.
So it's very brittle. Where PETG will start bending earlier, however, it's much stronger. So it's not gonna break, and it's gonna hold on to much more stress.
Yeah.
PETG also has a much better layer adhesion. So usually when a 3D printed part breaks, it's gonna break along the layer lines. So if you see I'm not sure if you can actually see this, the lines that go parallel.
Yeah.
You have a 3D printer, of course, you know the layer lines.
Yeah.
That's where the device is most likely to break, at least with PLA. With PETG, that's not really an issue anymore. So if you can make that choice, go with PETG for a functional device.
Okay. And another question I have, so I bought one which should come in soon, is the Phoenix hand enable assembly kit on the 3D Universe website. And then, so I was looking, some people are saying I should print it at like 130% scale. Would the kit, like with all the screws and stuff, work on that scale?
I don't actually know if the device is scalable. What files are you using? Are you using the STL files from Thingiverse?
Yeah, for the V2.
And actually, what you're
this is a V3.
this-
Whoops.
This challenge is a really important one. There's some projects now going on related to parametric design. So being able to scale a device and have all the fittings be things that don't change. That's a new project that's going on, but it's true that if you scale a device that isn't parametrically designed, some things can get a little bit off. Alexander can actually share more about that.
Right. Yeah, these are all STL files. So this can't. You're scaling uniformly?
Yeah.
So, everything is going to be bigger. Thankfully, whatever used to be a circle will still be a circle. So screws and the pins still work. However, you would need bigger screws. So I don't think the kit still works. I am not sure what size the kit is designed for.
Okay. Because a lot of places it says that you should usually print it like at a bigger scale for it to fit the body part.
Yeah, that's usually the case because you actually need to put some medical padding inside of it just to make sure that the PLA or the 3D printed material isn't always in contact with the skin, because that's
Yeah.
actually dangerous on long term.
Arjun, if you can send me a message in the hub after this, I can
Yeah.
connect you to Jeremy, who runs 3D Universe, and he
Yeah.
can let you know about the correct scaling for the kit, and that'll make it a lot easier. In the future, we are trying to set up the parametric design catalog. I think there's a couple people working on that. There's Andrew. I think Ward also was working on some of that stuff for a while.
Yeah.
But Jeremy will know the right scaling.
Okay, thank you. And my last question I had is, as you can see, there's like a lot of files, about like 20-ish files for one hand. So would it be fine? Would it be like if I combined like a few of the files together and printed at once?
Yeah, there is no issue as long as the quality of the 3D printed parts isn't affected, and that's up to your settings, really. That shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask some questions?
Yeah,
Please.
please go ahead.
Wonderful. How would I find an active sponsor or host? I went to a listed institution. It was a community college in my area in New Jersey. I contacted them and they haven't responded at all. So I can try again, and I will. But do you guys have either one of you or somebody who could be a big brother to me to get me through this process?
I can touch on that actually. So different regions and countries have different matching systems. You know,
Right.
again, this is a distributed, decentralized community effort. So
Sure.
in Turkey, they've got a really connected nationwide matching system that the chapter works on. In France, they support a whole network. In the US, we've been typically sending people to e-NABLE Web Central. I'll add the link in the chat. That's something that you can register for yourself as a maker. The process is being updated. Actually, Alexander, maybe you can go to that page just to show him.
And actually, I'm on my cell phone now. So if you wouldn't mind telling me your email, that'd be even a little better.
Sure. It's ben@e-nable.org.
Ben at
e-nable.
-nable. Okay.
Yeah.
.org.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. So this is. Oh, you first, Alexander.
Sorry, Ben. I am a bit confused. You said, how are you finding a sponsor?
I'm sorry, not a sponsor. I should say a host, or even an active participant, somebody who I can call to locally for advice.
Ah,
Oh,
Yeah, I don't need a sponsor, somebody to pay for it. I just need somebody, to be a local source
Yeah,
of information.
right, a community member.
Yeah.
Alexander, if you can go to the hub, you can see at the top there's the chapters map. This is these are formal chapters. So there's thousands of volunteers, and then there's a couple hundred formal chapters. So you're in New Jersey. If Alexander zooms in a little bit.
I don't know where New Jersey is.
No, it's fine. You're close. So it's East Coast. It's just above New York.
Everybody knows where New Jersey is.
I know.
I'm not American.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, go up a little bit.
Right.
There you go.
You're getting
Keep
there.
going there. Yeah, I found it. It was like County College of Morris, and they
Great.
just did 12 hands or something.
Amazing. So you can use the map, contact a couple people. People are busy. Sometimes there's even chapters that haven't been active in a while. Things have gotten a little bit bizarre with COVID. But the map is a way that you can connect to
Very
chapters.
good.
Now, in terms of volunteers, there's really tons of
I don't-
volunteers.
Yeah, I don't need volunteers now. That's okay.
Right.
I was hoping to get with an active chapter. So I know what
Yeah.
it's like to, keep calling until I find somebody. So that'd be fine.
Yeah, and the centralized hub is a really wonderful place to post the projects that you work on or the interests that you have, and then like a magnet, people come out of the woodwork. I'm writing a story about there's a Rotary in a small town in Maine. Actually, it's in Portland, Maine, but the guy involved was doing these mission trips down to the Dominican Republic, and he posted in the hub, this is years ago, in 2015, he posted in the hub that he was looking for, just like what you're saying, somebody that had some experience that could maybe work with them on a project. And then one of the members, Dean Rock, ended up living the next town over. So he's been going down to the Dominican Republic for the last number of years and helping to design mechanical and bionic hands for them. That collaboration is a really great example of how sort of these non-traditional partnerships can grow. It started with a Rotary. They found an e-NABLE hub member that was familiar with the devices and open source stuff. They reached out to the university, so they started working with the University of Southern Maine, and through the mission trips, they helped to catalyze a nationally based organization down there. So they do a yearly mission down there, but there's a whole team of community-led people in the Dominican Republic, many of whom have limb difference, that are running their own organization, and they have like 1,000 people on their waiting list. So there's really great ways to contribute. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to set up, and usually it works the best to work with a partner instead of trying to.
Yeah, just what I'm going to do. And I won't give up. Tell me, is there someplace on the website that you guys publish a best practices column of some sort to suggest, ways to go about doing things?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a great point. There's a couple things I can show you. Alexander, if I can share my screen.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No problem. Okay, so I'll show you a couple things. And this is a meeting that's recorded. So at the end of the meeting, there'll be a link and you can go back and see all that stuff. So you'll see at the top, there's a number of items to click on, different pages. All the way over at the left, there's a drop down with all the different sort of project spaces. You can type in new member or new, it'll pop right up, and there's a new members space. That's a good place to just get oriented. So you'll see right at the top, there's a pinned post, and it's got links to, community rules, code of conduct. There's some information about becoming a maker. There's some information about sizing. There's some community information, just general stuff. And if you scroll down, there's a number of resources and different videos. But what I'm going to actually do is, additional to the new member space, which I really should mention includes the Launchpad. The Launchpad is a deeper list of resources. So that's connected to the new member space, but you can search for in the spaces on the side. A lot of information about device recipients, school groups, coordinators, designers, how to become a chapter, new makers, all that stuff. Just to explore the main forum, you can also filter the post by best practices. So I'm going to click on the filter. Now I'm in the main forum. Here's all these thousands of posts from all these different people around the world. I'm going to click on filter, and under topic, I'm going to say best practices. You'll see it'll pop up, guides, tutorials, and best practices. Now I'm filtering all the posts by those tagged with best practices. And you'll see that here's people asking some specific questions. And then here's lots of comments from all these volunteers sharing about their experiences and suggestions. So that's a good way to do it as well. You can also use the general search if you have something specific, like Arjun, you said that you had what kind of a printer?
I have the Creality Ender 5 and then the Creality Ender 3.
Okay, so let's put in the general search, I'm going to put in Creality. And that'll pop up posts that specifically have Creality. So yeah, you can learn about, and here's one of our volunteers is Creality's first brand ambassador, and he's been working on projects with e-NABLE. So, he'd be a really great person. If you have any questions, you can ask him as a brand ambassador. He's going to be able to follow up with some information. He did a project in Tanzania and brought a portable 3D printer in a suitcase. So there's lots of things that you can find out just by using the general search as well. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Another question for you.
Yep.
There were two materials we were talking about earlier, PLA, and what's the other material you guys were talking about? I didn't get the initials.
PETG. PETG is a material, Alexander, that's recycled materials, right? That one's actually biodegradable.
I wouldn't count on biodegradable, but it's basically the same PET as you have in your normal plastic bottles with extra glycol, I believe. Might be something different.
Okay. Another question for you. Do you find that you have to zero the machines, like index the machine to 0? Because I was having some problems with that, I think.
As in how high your build plate is, or I'm not sure what you mean.
No, when I on my old machine, when I would say build me a block 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, it might come up 10.3 centimeters. Wasn't making an exact 10 centimeter cube. Do you find that you have to do that at all?
Well, that depends a lot on your settings. Those are called tolerances. That's why I got confused. There are a lot of guides that you can find online on how to set up your printer tolerances, and there is no set of universal settings. However, generally with any printer, if you have 0.1 or anywhere below 0.2 millimeter layer height, they will be very close to perfection. And if when you want to print faster or you use different settings, you will need to adjust the layer width, the amount of extrusion multiplication that you get on your extruder settings, so not necessarily in your printer settings. There are various things that you can tinker with until you get that exact precision.
Thank you very, very much. And now I have to leave. I'm just about to enter Canadian customs. We're going from the US to Canada. So I'll check out this recording later. Thank you very much for all your time.
Sure.
I have 1 or 2 more questions.
Sure, shoot.
So I'm a high school student in 10th grade. And I was looking at how I think there's like a chapter nearby me, but I don't think it's active. So I was wondering how to open a chapter and how that would work.
Great question. So I'm going to share my screen.
I have a better question first before, if it's all right with you, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you want to start a chapter?
My friend, I found out this program through one of my friends who was, I think, on the West Coast, and he's a volunteer with his other group of friends. And he told me that after you settle in and make a few of these, he thinks that making a chapter would be like the best outreach to get people, recipients for this.
How do you think chapters get recipients?
I'm still new to that stuff, so I don't really understand all that, but.
Well, and it's I think what Alexander is basically trying to make the case for is that being a volunteer or being a volunteer running a chapter are sort of on an equal playing field. So you can find some of our most active members of the community are volunteers that aren't associated with a chapter, but organizing a chapter can be an experience that helps to bring other members of your high school together, working in a team. If you're trying to build something locally, it can make it a little bit easier sometimes to have local partnerships. You know, if you say, you know, I'm part of the high school chapter, sometimes it can be easier to work with, you know, the local library or the local makerspace or something like that, but not required. So I don't know if that's sort of what you were aiming for.
Yeah, I was trying
Alexander.
to see like if I could like work with other people in my high school, like get other people with 3D printers and be interested in this idea, because it's a very
You
good
don't
idea.
technically need to be a chapter to collaborate with other people. So
Okay.
that needs to be out there. However, as Ben said, there are advantages. And if you set up the chapter not only as a name on the hub, but and probably as a group on Facebook or whatever, but also as what's the name of when you create not an association, not a company, 301k? No.
Oh, 501c3.
Yeah, there you go.
And you don't even have to do that necessarily. But having like there's a lot of, about half of our chapters are educational chapters. They're connected to a high school or a university. Sometimes you can get your high school to sort of take ownership of that. It's a challenge though. I mean, if you think about it, you've got these students moving through every year.
Yeah.
So just keeping up with being able to pass things on to the next group of students can take some effort, but it could also be a really wonderful project to work on. There's a lot of high schools that have really active chapters, and actually a lot of them collaborate with the universities, which is, again, you know, could be a cool opportunity. Sometimes people make some connections that can lead to helping them, you know, look at going to study for college.
Yeah.
So if you look at the top, you'll see we've got all these links, including this link to chapters. Here's the chapters map, and you can click and zoom in. You can filter. You can see where they're located. There's about 200 chapters. If you go below the map, you'll see that there's a list of steps.
Yeah.
And that shows what's required. It's actually a badge. So we have a badging system. Now, the nice thing about the badges is, like Alexander said, anybody can be a volunteer. Some of our most active chapters, or some of our most active volunteers, like Alexander, isn't associated with a chapter. But he does collaborate with a lot of chapters.
Okay.
So it's something that, again, isn't a requirement, but here's all these other badges. So one of the badges is, I'm going to scroll down, chapter badge. So here's specific badges. You can click on them, enable community chapter, and you can see what's involved with having that badge.
Okay.
You can see everybody else who has that badge, but also you go back, here's all these other badges. So being an active community member can involve mentoring other people. It can involve social media. It can involve, you know, all learning how to print all these different devices. You click on any of these badges and it gives you some information. It shows you, again, all these other people that have that experience. So lots of ways to participate. You can even propose a badge. You can look through all these badges and say, you know what, they're missing something. And you can propose a new badge, and we'll make that badge, and then you'll get a proposed badge and your new badge.
Yeah.
So,
But okay, that was good. Thank you.
yep. Do you have any ideas of what you're hoping to study beyond high school, or is there sort of a trajectory that looks interesting to you, engineering or medical stuff?
I've been pretty involved in 3D printing before, so I've been doing like since middle school, like early middle school. I've started. First thing was during like the fidget spinner craze. I created like custom fidget spinners with like names on them, and then started making a business out of that. But now I'm trying to move in. I saw this. I want to help and volunteer out with this.
Cool.
I think I'd probably want to go somewhere into either engineering or business side.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the forum, and you click on filter, there's all these different topics, and you can kind of scroll through and pick different ways that you can filter down all of the posts. You can, like, if you're interested in materials, you can just find comments that are talking about materials and get a sense of, here's a company in the Czech Republic. Actually, this is a great thing to mention to you guys. Martina in the Czech Republic is working with a filament company, and they're offering free filament, and they're all skin colors. So she's got
That's only EU based.
I'm not sure. It might be EU based, but you can follow up with her anyways if you're interested. They've got these different skin color filaments.
They do have a US collaboration, I believe, so it's worth asking.
Yeah. So she's saying anybody who's interested, if you're a volunteer in the community, she can send 300 grams of skin filament to test as a beta tester. So here's an example of how you can use the hub, which has all these posts, filter into something specific like materials, and then, oh, here's an opportunity. You can send her an email.
Okay.
And then I posted recently about, I don't know, some smart materials. Sometimes there's just posts about research and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay.
Also worth mentioning that it's not just hands. So I'm going to put in universal design. There's a lot of projects during the pandemic related to face masks and face shields and that kind of stuff. You can search assistive technology or universal design, and there's a lot of people that are posting about prosthetics for ducks and animals, and tons of comments about this whole case, which was really cool. Braces. There's been some projects related to adapters for playing musical instruments and playing sports and riding bicycles. So lots of stuff related to how to help using 3D printing.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the meeting. This is very helpful.
Sure. So we do these once a month. Next week, this is a good moment for me to make this plug. So every month, my computer a minute to catch up. We've got 6 community meetings currently. That's open to change if other people want to champion something new, but currently we have a bionic design group, which is pretty active, run by Vivek. We've got a e-NABLE education meeting. So that would be something that you definitely could join for next month. It's coming up. Each of those has a guest presentation. So there could be some really interesting new technology or projects going on. We've got a chapter leaders meeting. We've got the new members meetup. That's today. The next meeting next Friday is actually, no, Monday is the device pilots meeting. That's for people that are device users to connect and share their experiences. This one's hosted by a chapter in Paraguay, so it'll be in Spanish. Next Friday, a week from today, there's the focus follow-up workshop. So there's going to be actually Eric from Paraguay and Ahmad from Syria are going to share the research that they've been doing about lower limbs. So again, an example of not just hand design. So feel free to join for that. And starting in March, it'll cycle back to the top. So we'll have new presentations for all this stuff.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Alexander.
No worries. Thanks for inviting me.
See you
Cheers.
later.